Welcome, everybody, to another podcast for the transformation in all of us. We're talking today about last week, honestly. Thanks to everybody for your comments, your ideas, complaints were even appreciated. A lot of people are very interested in agentic AI, and we felt like it was a good opportunity to talk about the things that we missed last week. So, number one, agentic AI is when you have a virtual assistant that actually can accomplish something. So it is action oriented. We really didn't push that point very hard last week, but a lot of people are also talking about, Sean, this is way in the future. And I cannot argue enough for that. And that's what we're going to talk about today, that a lot of people are overthinking this technology. And when you have a bot, you don't need to have all the data on Earth to train the bot, right? I tell people, when you're thinking about agentic AI, you're talking about a virtual person, right? Think of it as an employee. The AI is an employee. So for an employee, you need to provide two things. You need to tell them enough to do their job and what their job is, right? That's it. You don't need to give every single bit of the Library of Congress to do it. And you don't need, as we talked about last year, to create one bot that does everything. It's boiling the ocean. As I was talking to David before we started here, we're Transformation Leaders Podcast, not Terraforming Leaders Podcast. But I digress. David, can you help us walk through your vision of where agentic AI can be practically put into use today?
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head where everybody's thought process is, especially with the questions that we get. It's always about, I tried this, it doesn't work, or I got concerns about this, or I've tried this and it doesn't work that way. And every use case is boiling the ocean. They're trying to do too much with it. So AI is so smart, I like to tell everybody, that it's actually stupid. It's crippled by its intelligence. It wants to be helpful by nature, and it will hallucinate to no end if you don't give it guardrails. And the guardrails are simply just, when you ask something of it, you have to be very specific, tell it to do this, don't do that, and all the stuff that we had talked about on previous podcasts. But to answer the question of agentic AI, where is it best used? It's best used at the lowest level of your business, simply at the task level. And we'll kind of walk and get through a lot of that today. And I think, Sean, that at least at the high level, superficially, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I got a pretty cool demo, I think, that everybody will appreciate. And also, I think it will provide a lot of clarity on how to actually do this very thing that I just mentioned. So if we look at understanding the leadership focus, so you might be in a role as a leader, you might be in a role as somebody who is a doer, a builder, or maybe just a manager in the middle somewhere. And if that's the case, no matter where you fit, no matter where you fall, just this framing and understanding is where you should start. This is not a one size fit all. This is a best practice general guideline. Okay. So first, talk with your colleagues, talk with your subordinates, talk to your leaders, wherever you fit in the org, right? Talk about your year-end goals. So right now we're in February. This is a great time. You should have actually have had these conversations November, December of last year so you hit the ground running, but it's never too late to start, okay? So don't let that slow you down. What you want to do is talk about your year-end goals. What do you want to get done by the end of the year? What are the main things you want to accomplish? And then more importantly, out of all of those, what are you working on right now to deliver something that's high priority, super important, because this is what you should be working on in the next 90 days. And once you have that big picture and the short-term objective of where you need to be, now you are ready to start having the conversation about agentic AI. Sean, you want to talk to this one?
Yeah, I mean, the first 90 days is the most important on any kind of project. You've got to break things down into consumable bits, right? I always talk about that anything you're going to do, you're going to need people to do. As much as people want to say, hey, AI is going to replace humans, no, we all need people who are specialized to help. And if they're specialized to help, that means you want to roll all in the same direction, and that's alignment, right? Make sure that you can talk to the individual way back to the company on and have incentives to support it so that the people who are working with you want to work with you. I don't know if if the people out there probably have great stories. I'd love to hear them on where things have gone wrong, where there was critical path people who were disincentivized to helping you and how difficult that is. If you can line up the people, you can transform, right? Strategy is the next part. Again, Rome wasn't built in a day, but in the first 90 days, I'm sure they put a dent. And then once you can explain to everybody, this is what everybody's job is, this is why you want to do your job, this is what you need to get done, and how it fits into everybody else, you can actually accomplish things. Now, this applies to everything. So hopefully, a lot of this is people are rolling their eyes at this point. Yes, we know.
Yeah. I think the execution part that I'm hearing, everybody is like paralyzed or confused or where do I go? Where do I start? And it's all about the alignment and strategy. That's where you need to start. Now you need to start executing. And so here's some engagement leaderships through actions. This is really just high level. Sean, you want to go ahead and take these, and then I will
Certainly
start my screens here and prepare for this demo that we're about to give.
So the first point is you've got to connect the outcome to everybody on the staff, internally and externally, right? What is the real world application of these things? Again, to align people, you need them to see your vision of what the transformed state is. And you have a language to do that. And that is the present case, right? So allowing people to understand that, hey, these are our top 5 things, intents, tasks, whatever the team is doing, right? And then provide demonstratable bits of those. Take people partway through the journey and say, hey, we know that if you run this prompt, you get this answer. So if you have this data and you have this prompt, we know you'll be able to get close to the answer. And that's how this works. Grounding it in reality is important. And then lastly, you need to say, these are the outcome that we're actually looking for. Measurable outcomes so that people know what done looks like. Transformation is a bad word in many customer accounts of mine because in the past, other companies sold them on an outcome with no measurables so that the end of the day is it became out of control. The spending was too much. They pulled the plug and they didn't get the transformation they wanted. Making sure that you set what the goal line looks like means that you could actually score, right? If you don't have an end zone, you can't score.
That is true. So true. And I think this is kind of, I would call this a money slide. So if you're just tuning in, kind of really take the time to absorb this. I'm going to walk you through it because this is like super, super important for the maximum success that an organization can experience because it's starting from the top down. And so if this is planned out, discussed, and executed in this way, you're going to see remarkable transformations in the way of how agentic AI can help you accomplish what it is that you're trying to do. And it starts with talking to your CX is lowercase because you can replace it with IO for the information technology. Could be the EO for the executive branch of the entire company. Or it could be just your operations and the operational officer. But either way, all of them should be on the same page with regards to the initiatives for your company. And so getting that understanding is key. It's core. And so what you do is you break it down. For those of you that have done any consulting, maybe you heard of, maybe you haven't heard of, there's this concept called the 5 whys. Toyota was the one who essentially came up with it. If you're a parent, you have a 2-year-old child and they say, why, why? It's exactly the same idea. And it's interesting when you go through that, you start to figure out or get to the grassroots of whatever it is. But in this use case, you want to talk about, hey, I've got this initiative. We need to do X, Y, and Z. And that might look different for each company, even if you're in the same vertical, right? Everybody has their secret sauce. Companies are unique and distinct because of the way that they do what they do. And hopefully that's how or where you differentiate yourselves. And then, of course, the magic is in the marketing, how you position yourselves and communicate that outwards. But now I've digressed. But in any event, the core here is to get to that task level. You want to get into the workflow. How are we doing what we're doing? Or if it's new and it's a new initiative, how are we going to do what we're going to do? Okay. And so it's clear that you do this because the very next part is where things are going to fall off the handrails here real quick if you're not to that part. Sean and I have talked a lot on previous episodes about dirty data or bad data, and you try to do something in IT with data and then it's garbage in, garbage out. Well, it's the same thing here. If you don't have a clear plan of where you want to go, where you want to be, you're never going to get there, and you're going to waffle and go this way, that way, and a lot of money, a lot of energy is going to be spent going in crazy directions. So if and when you get to the task, this is the secret sauce. And this is why everybody overcomplicates it. And this is the need or the reason for this podcast is because when you get to the task level, it's 1, 2, or 3. It's as simple as that. Okay. First, you ask on the task, is this something only a human can do? Do you trust AI to do it? No, I don't think so. Or maybe it might, but we're not sure. Nah, let's just let a human do it for whatever reason, right?
And maybe they want to do it. Maybe the best outcome would be a human should do it. Maybe not only do, but should do. Think of it that way too.
Yeah, too. And that's a great point, because in some cases, and I'm going to choose my words carefully. I get super frustrated as a consumer when I have a problem, or I'm super frustrated with something because it's broken or I need help. And while I appreciate chatbots and while I appreciate automations and everything else, sometimes I just want to talk to a human. So replacing like somebody at the other end of your support call with just a robot and not a human, that's a perfect use case. Yes, you can, but just because you can doesn't mean you should, to Sean's point. Okay, now the second item is, can AI assist you? Okay, I've got a great book that I read a lot and live and die by this thing. It's the 80-20 rule. And so what you want to do is you leverage AI to do 80% of the hard work so that it only really probably contributes to maybe 20% of the outcome. But then that leaves you with 20%. But that should be the 20% that's going to give you the most of what is going to come out of this, right? But the point is, let AI be your assistant. Let AI do the heavy lifting. We've talked about this almost to the no end, right? And so this is the same thing here, because these are agents. It's still AI. It's still applicable. It's just we're adding multiple virtual employees, essentially what this is, with orchestration. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment. And then the last and final part is, can AI 100% do this? This is dry, mundane work. People hate doing it. Maybe they do like it, in some cases. And if that's the case, it's kind of back to Sean's point earlier. If somebody wants to do it and you're okay with doing it, then that's fine. But a good task might be aggregating, researching, doing monotonous, redundant work, like taking information from this spreadsheet to copy and paste it over here. Like, we have the technology, folks.
Documenting use cases, unit testing, like there's all kinds of things that I know as myself who have done code. Documentation is not, I could never find a developer who liked doing documentation, right? And so what you want to look for on the automation, above all else, is, and this helps with the alignment, as I was talking about before, if people really hate to do it, they will help you automate. So maybe you should start with the easiest and the thing that makes everybody happy. If you can align up something that people don't want to do, and AI can do, and will create business value. You've just hit the lottery, right? Those are the 3 dials on the spin, and you've hit jackpot. That should be everybody's secret sauce in agentic AI.
Yep. You hit the nail on the head with that one. And here's a refiner too to that. So as you go through these tasks, each task, and you figure out, does it fit into one of those other 3 categories? These 3 steps are a strategy within them. And so when you look at the task, you want to look at how you can bring about small measurable changes by using AI in workflows. I'm just generically hanging that out there, because in most cases, if it's completely new and non-existing, it's a new workflow, right? But if you have, and this is really where, if you take what you're already doing and you want to do more with the same, or more with less, or more with whatever, for the sake of doing more, this is also really critical here, because what you need to do is ask, can you use AI specific targeted solutions to these critical key areas? And the part here is it's at the core, right? This is at the DNA or the task level of the business. And this is where you want to be, because this is where it's specific. You don't give AI a chance to hallucinate. It's just, do this one thing for me. I don't need you to just, hey, write me a whatever, and then it comes up with something about foo schnickens, as opposed to, I don't know, maybe you have intentions of talking about a derivative story of Moby Dick and a whale or something. But, if you let it pick and choose, you're going to get the luck of the draw. But it's all centered around the outcome. It's very specific. And that's why this works so well, because we are specific, because we are at the task level. You got the clear laser zone specific understanding of what that outcome should be. And when you achieve it consistently, because it's specific and you see it work again and again and again, all of a sudden the light bulb ticks. Oh my God, I've been doing this wrong the whole time. This builds improvement in trust in AI, and also the outcome, and more importantly, the value. Like, I should have put value in there, because ultimately all of this means it equals value. All right. I am going to share my screen, but before I do, Sean, do you have anything you want to add to this before I?
No. I want to call out everyone's comments from last week and the comments that are flowing in now. Really appreciate it. What we're trying to do is inform you all that not only is this technology worth your time to look at, but it is possible to transform with it, right? We talked about the end of the year and the beginning of the year, stuff that's in the far-flung future that we're probably never going to talk about this year. But this is stuff that there is technology right now. There is plenty of opportunities. If you do not know a technology that's helping you in this area, reach out to us, because this is where we're helping our customers today.
I am getting rid of everything on my screen here. All right, I think I'm ready to begin. I'm going to replace the slideshow with this. So I'm going to start off with this workflowy looking thing, because it's a little easier to explain to those of you. It's a good place to start, because if you're watching this and you're like, I've heard this buzzword, what does agentic AI mean? Okay, I want you to think of orchestration and a virtual team. If you have an initiative, you wanted to get something done, you usually give it to a manager, and that manager has, employees that they manage, and they'll delegate these tasks accordingly. Well, this is virtual, and agentic AI is all about virtual departments, virtual staff, virtual whatever. And so if I zoom in, this block right here that you see me shaking and jiggling, that is your supervisor. This is the orchestrator. He's responsible, first and foremost, when you try to chat with him, say in a chat interface, and this could be 100% automated behind the scenes, so you don't have to have a graphical interface to it. But the supervisor receives information from some point, whether it's a human or a programming API call, and it will take that and disseminate this information. In this use case, what this is doing is it is evaluating a developer writing an API specification that they're making for themselves. And a lot of times, the company may not have any standards, and maybe that's one of the initiatives. It's like, hey, listen, I noticed that we do this again and again, and we need to rein this in. We need some governance. We need some guidance. We need some whatever around this. And we want to make sure we have a consistent outcome. So this worker, his responsibility is to simply just take the request of what was built and say, let me grade it on a scale of, say, 1 to 10. This does it a little bit differently, but nonetheless. And then after that, it will look at your company's best practices, not only the best practices of the industry, like if you're writing an API specification, there are RFCs that say you should do this, but then your company may layer on, hey, well, I'm in healthcare, I have these requirements. I'm in manufacturing, I have these requirements. And so whatever they are, you'll add that to this rubric, to this classification, and the inspector will go through and look at the best practices, look at your specific things that you're looking for, and it will work back and forth with the supervisor and the grader to make sure that everything's in alignment, and then assess it and then provide the supervisor the information. The fourth and final worker, or yeah, it is a fourth worker. This third worker, but fourth in the team, is responsible for disseminating, articulating all of this information, packaging it up, putting a bow on it, making it easy to understand. And so as I go through this demo, I just wanted to set up and walk through visually, this is what an agent looks like and the use case for it. And so let me show a couple of other use cases. This is a Wile E. Coyote, Acme, back in the day of Looney Tunes, right? So this is our fictitious type of corporation. It doesn't have anything to do with bombs and stuff that Wile E. Coyote used to do. But nonetheless, you'll put like, I don't know, I'll just put John in here. I'll pop my email address in here. And then I am going to, I don't know if you can read this on screen or not. It's a little bit small, but I put this helper text in here. And ideally what you'll do is in this use case, and this is you going back to our slides earlier in the conversation, walk me through your management process. So maybe you're talking to your supervisor. Maybe you're talking to the CXO of your company. Walk me through your management process, the decisions you make, the dependencies, and specifically call out any current areas you're struggling with. It's a different way of saying what I had given earlier in an example, but I'm going to use AI to illustrate other AI. We're just going to go all in AI today, and we're going to just go off the cuff, and we're going to see what happens. Also, you're going to hear me say a lot of very specific things, which goes back to prompting and prompt engineering and having very specific, because again, it's so smart, it's stupid. But I'm going to push this microphone here and I'm going to give it, or try to talk to it so I can save time typing. I want you to emulate that you are a CEO of a company and I am interviewing you. I want you to tell me what you're working on this year initiative wise. And then I would like you to frame that by what is most important, specifically what you might be working on currently in the next 90 days within that list. Also, if you could, maybe tell me some things that you're challenged with, you're having some problems solving, and we'll go with that. All right, and so I'm going to stop there and I'm going to come down, and now I'm going to give it very specific instructions. In your response, I want you to put this in conversational paragraph format. Do not use bullets or any other formatting, just strictly text and text in paragraphs. Okay, so what I've done there is I've asked it a question, I've told it to give me something, and rather than doing its normal GPT thing that it does, it's hopefully just going to give me a bunch of text. Now I'm going to take this text and I'm going to pop this text into this tool, which is pretty cool. You're going to see what this thing does in just a moment. And I'm going to submit that. The form's been submitted. Behind the scenes, I have a whole nother agent team with a bunch of code, a bunch of programming, and a bunch of things that have come through. Get rid of my advertisements. And then here is my email that I received from my first automation. And so this is like really important here, because I'm going to click this so that we can see what's going on. So this is a conversation that you saw me just have with the CEO. even though it was AI. But just think about what you could do in the real world. And I asked it, what's going on? So we can see, here's the digital transformation efforts that they're working on. I didn't say digital transformation. It just knew that, right? And so upgrading technology infrastructure, improve customer experience, upgrade customer relationship management system. And then there's other sub processes with this. Now, remember I told you about that 5 why thing, or if you're a parent and have a 2-year-old and they ask why? This is your first area to start hitting on why and dig in deeper. Okay, why are you upgrading your customer relationship management system? The answer might be in some of the subtasks. Personalized interactions, drive engagement and loyalty. Okay, that's great. Personalized interactions. Well, you know what? That might be a fantastic place to go to start digging in and saying, let's track reactions or clicks on advertisements that we do, and then let's send them something and personalizing it based on the information we can extrapolate from them on social media or on LinkedIn, which is social media, or whatever. And so you can see where I'm going with this. And then you ask those questions that I talked about earlier. Which of those 3 buckets? Is this something a human can do? Is this something AI can assist you in doing? Or is this something AI should and could do on its own? I think extrapolating or trying to find information from social media, that would take somebody probably 30 minutes to an hour, whereas AI could go through that probably in 5 minutes or less. You can kind of see where this is going here, right? And so that's this part of the demo, right? And so this is one demo. The other thing I want to circle back, and I apologize for bouncing around. I showed you this flow earlier, but now I want to show you a demo with that flow. Okay, so this is the API standard. Again, just bringing it to clarity. This is a supervisor. We've got a grader. We've got an inspector and a report writer. And now we're using a user interface in this demo to illustrate what this might look like. It says, hello, this demo is about Acme standards. Please submit your Swagger code, which, by the way, if you know anything about coding and development, when you're writing an API, you have to give it a specification. It's kind of geeky in coding, but nonetheless, you won't have to see the file itself here. I'm just going to pick from a file that's already there and save everybody the pain of looking at some code. I am going to submit this. Now it's going off to the agent. It's going through its process. The supervisor has taken it. It's disseminated it, it's tore it apart, it's chunked it, it knows what's going on with it, and it has all of its programmatic instructions, and it's going through the process. And you watch this happen in real time. So we just saw that the grading happened. We got 12 out of 30 that you can see right here. It's supervisors now saying, let me go ahead and pass this off to an inspector. It's comparing all of the standards that they have with security, documentation, error handling, performance, consistency. All of this is being graded and measured further. That information has come through, and each one of these has received its own score and criteria based off of what was important to that company. And so now the supervisor's saying, hey, report writer, I need you to put a bow on this thing and package it up. Now, unfortunately, this user interface collapses everything when it's done, so we have to scroll. But this is the work of the reporting and summary worker, and we get a nice, pretty report. This could be in a PDF form. Maybe it's on the document. Maybe it's an email, all kinds of work. But the point here is showing you how to get to the task level, showing you how you can figure out which task, or how the task rather should be handled. Is it something that a worker needs to do, meaning an employee, a human, or can AI help with this? Or can we automate this 100% and fully? And then you saw how quickly was able to do this. Now, I was able to put this POC together that you're seeing here, 2 hours tops to do this, including this custom screen that you see here that I also used AI to help build. So the point here is that don't discount AI. When you ask it to do something very specific, just like you saw that I did over here in Poe when I had this conversation, I didn't type a word. I used voice to type this, but you saw I got very specific, and I got a very specific outcome that I was pleased with because I was able to use this in this demo so that I could paste the text here. And then you saw the demo that came out there. So again, tasks is the key. Give it something specific, give it something small. And then if you look at a workflow diagram, that together is your process. That's the ocean. And an even bigger ocean is your department. An even bigger ocean is your company. And this is the problem that people have been experiencing, is they're trying to get AI to do these things at these larger levels. You need to go deeper. You need to go deeper. You need to get task level, task specific. And that is really the crux and the key to all of this. Back to you, Sean.
So again, what is so important for you to realize is if you treat bots like you would treat people as far as organizationally, you can see how you can create a persona and a knowledge set and make them super focused. This will increase the accuracy, right? So I want to be clear. The strategy of having bots talking to bots really gives you an immense amount of power in two different areas. Number one is accuracy, because it's much more fine-tuned into a specific task. It's going to have a lot less drift if it's doing very simple tasks. Number two is you have the flexibility to reuse these bots in many different ways, right? I want to make sure people realize this, because it's easier for all of us to treat our virtual employees like regular employees, because we are so attuned to it. Our business processes work this way. So if you think of it that way, and say, hey, let's create a new virtual role for an employee that just happens to be an AI, it helps you understand, okay, well, then we're dividing and conquering. A lot of people are very afraid of, we're replacing people. I personally don't believe that that is the role of AI in the recent future. It's going to be augmenting, it's going to be helping humans do things that they don't want to do. I try to explain this. Everybody should know what the difference between a career and a job is. A career is something that you do for the love of it. A job is something you do for the money.
Yep.
Right? And if you can, exactly, if you can go to the people and say, look, I want to have AI do your job so that you can enjoy your career, they are much more likely to be aligned with the outcome that you're trying to achieve. And again, if you don't have alignment, you don't have outcome. And if you did get outcome without alignment, you have a war story on your hands. And again, please comment. I'd love to hear your war stories, because I have quite a few myself. But a lot of these best practices are because David and I have learned the hard way. So please listen to our wisdom, because
avoid our pain.
Exactly. The outcome is there if you can align with the strategy. And then he showed you how the technology, and again, all the agentic technology works the same. We didn't get into the technology aspect because it's irrelevant. There are plenty of technologies out there. If you disagree with that, please let us know. We would love to show you how we know. But the bottom line is the technology is irrelevant at this point. Your strategy will dictate your outcomes. So again, David, thanks for walking through here. Hopefully this alleviates a lot of the questions we got last week. If not, please type in, type in to the comments. We'd love to hear how you completely disagree with us, and that we need more focus on this subject.
Yep. I think next week we'll try to switch to a different subject, unless of course there's still more confusion and we have to refine, and we remain neutral and open to figure out what's going on. We try to come up with podcasts that are innovative but also relevant to kind of what's going on in the industry. And every article, it seems, is beating us up about agentic AI and companies either not hiring or considering AI, and all these crazy articles. And I know most of us probably just try to bury our head, but there is a lot of value in here for yourself. And if you have any questions, I know a lot of this stuff was esoteric in some regard to some of you, and in others, maybe not so much, but maybe you're still stuck or you got just enough knowledge here to be dangerous, but you still have questions. There's QR codes. Both of them take you to our LinkedIn pages. So if you want to get to Sean or me or whatever, just go ahead and scan that right there. Leave us a note, message us on LinkedIn, or connect with us, send a connection request. Say, hey, we caught your podcast. That way we know you're not just trying to sell us something, because usually we'll just delete the request if that's the case. But in any event, reach out to us. We're always here for you. And definitely, we're here every Wednesday to have these conversations with you about feedback and things that we get from you guys ongoing. That's it for today's podcast, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.